All right, I'm just making sure that it's on and we are getting to go. So in this case, yesterday we ended looking at the structure of the leaves. Started looking at the structure of the leaves, and we labeled that diagram. I'm trying to find that diagram, which I personally also labeled, and it is right here. Okay, so we have this. We have this already, and I did say we're going to talk about the function of these components, but in order for you to understand what those components do, it's best you think of two things. Which part of the leaf is most exposed to sunlight, which is the top part of the leaf? The second question is, which part of the leaf is most exposed or vulnerable to water loss or getting dried out? It is also the top part because it's facing the sun. So with those two things in mind, most exposed to the sun, so more sunlight, excessive sunlight, and also this part is the part that's more easy to get dried out. This will hopefully make it easier to understand the function of each of these parts. Okay? Are we good? So, the next slide here. Now, you might need to write down this S. S stands for the structure. S stands for the structure. F stands for the function. Okay? So make sure you have both of those per parts. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to copy those things down, and then I'm going to go over. Okay? Okay, put up your hand if you're done. Any of you? Okay, quick. Just checking, just checking. Okay, how are you guys doing? Who's done? Okay, about 1 or 2 more minutes. Actually, 1 more minute, and then I'm gonna start explaining things. Okay, I'm gonna start talking in about 30 seconds, so hurry up, hurry up. All right, so if you have, whether you finish copying or not, what I'm going to ask you to do is really just looking at my explanation and follow along. This is at the moment being recorded, so if you miss anything, you can always come back and copy down whatever you miss. But it is at this point more important that you understand how things work. Okay, so I'm going to leave the screen here so that you can see the functions of different parts. I'm holding the model. Hopefully this shows up in the camera. Now keep in mind, this is a model of a leaf. So top part of the leaf, bottom part of the leaf, okay? Side cut, basically what you guys copied. So in this case here, remember the top part is more susceptible for getting dried out. And at the same time, it is more access to sunlight. So in this case, it makes sense that on the top part, the cuticle, the very thin layer on top of the leaf, some leaves have it. You have this thin layer of cuticles that is waxy and preventing water loss. It's waterproofing. Not so much about preventing water going in, it's more about water leaving the leaves. Okay. And then right underneath it, you have the epidermis. So on the top row, you have these cells tightly packed here, but it is transparent. Not so much for doing photosynthesis, but it is more, again, try not to make sure that water vapor won't leave the cell. Okay? Trying to get the cell in, the light in, but not have the water vapor, preventing water loss. Yes? Cuticle is a thin layer on the top, which in this model doesn't show. If you look at the diagram on here, you see here that you have this thin layer, that's cuticle. Okay? Now, palisade mesophyll. Palisade mesophyll are basically the first row that's directly under the epidermis. It is tightly packed. It is tightly packed. Now, it has a lot of chlorophyll because at this point, we're pretty good in terms of preventing water loss. Now, we really want to do a lot of photosynthesis, right? So in this case, it's tightly packed across and it has lots of chlorophyll. That is to do the photosynthesis, to capture the light. Are we good so far? So that explains a lot of things about the top part of the leaf. Getting a lot of photosynthesis done and preventing water loss. Now, we're going to start looking from the bottom of the leaves. Now, the bottom of the leaves, remember, that's a shadier side. It doesn't receive much sunlight or as much sunlight. So in this case, now, the leaves need to be able to do photosynthesis, but photosynthesis requires, aside from sunlight, what? And water. What else?
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide, and we'll give off CO2. So in this case, the gas exchange, this will be a good spot for gas exchange to happen. Okay? Now, I'm going to not use this model that much because the diagram is nicer. Is it in your way? Now, so if you look at the diagram here, top part of the leaf, bottom part of the leaf. We talk about the cuticles, we talk about the epidermis, we talk about palisade mesophyll, photosynthesis, and preventing water loss. Now, down here, let's start with the stoma. Now, if you might remember, in the respiratory system, we talk about some people because they had smoking, because they've been smoking, their throat cancer, or they have to remove the whole larynx or whatnot. And so in this case, they have to have a stoma to breathe in and out through. Stoma is a hole. So in this case, you actually, on the bottom part of the leaf, you have also, this model shows you have these little holes, these little pores, which allows CO2 to go in and oxygen to come out, okay? So all these pores where the gas can go in and gas can come out, that's where they are located. Also, at the same time, now think about it, when you're breathing in and breathing out, what else could you breathe out? What's another thing that could be, yes?
Water vapor.
Water vapor, good. So this is also the reason why, to prevent water loss, because these holes are like easy for the water vapor to escape. That's why these holes, these stomas, are on the bottom and not on the top. If it is on the top, it will get dried up very quickly. You guys good? Now, so we talked about the stoma. Now, the stoma is controlled by these two guard cells. These two guard cells basically decides when the stoma will be open and closed. Those things are not open 24/7. The guard cells will let the stoma be open when the leaves have lots of water and they're not in danger of getting dried out. But when the leaves start getting dried out, these guard cells will close the stoma. Then in this case, the water vapor won't escape that easily. Are we good? So the guard cells controls the opening and closing of the stoma. It depends on water availability to the leaf. Okay? When there's enough water, it will open. If it's not enough water, it will close. Now here, you see underneath here, you have a lot of space. It's important because sometimes when it's closed, you still want photosynthesis to happen. Okay? So in this case, you have a lot of space for the gas that came in or generated. Spongy mesophyll. You notice that they're very loose. They're very loose. So in some ways, yes, they still do photosynthesis. There's still chlorophyll on them. It's not as important though. It was most important for storing the air or the gas that is in this part and allowing the gas to go through the spongy mesophyll to get to the palisade mesophyll where the main photosynthesis action is happening. Are we good? So to summarize, because this is important, cuticle waterproofing, because this is the part where direct exposure sunlight. Upper epidermis or epidermis, this is a part where it is protecting the cell, is tightly packed, so again, preventing water loss. Palisade mesophyll, the main place where photosynthesis happens, lots of chlorophyll. Spongy mesophyll, you still get some photosynthesis happening, but it's more about letting gas to go through them to get to the palisade. On the bottom part, you have the stoma. That's where the gas go in and out along with potential water vapor. And the guard cells is to control whether the stoma open or close to minimize the water loss. Okay? And this part here, the vascular bundle, this is the part where the xylem and phylum is. This is the part where water will go through the xylem to get transported to the leaves, and the sugar that's generated from photosynthesis will get sent out through the phylum. Questions? All right, make sure you know this part and know this part. This is quite important portion, okay? Good. Now, human uses of leaves. What have we been using leaves for? Herbal medicine, yes, part of it. If you eat salad, you're eating leaves, generally speaking. Tea would have leaves. A thatch roof would be using leaves. Questions? What's the question?
No, we're just talking about there was like a sign up for English.
Oh. All right, so here is some. I thought chocolate is from a berry. This looks like chocolate, but tea leaves. Now, in terms of the chemicals in the tea, or in the leaves, here are a couple of things. Make sure you write them down. How many of you like rhubarb? Rhubarb, here.
Can't you make pie or something?
Yeah, a lot of times rhubarb. And any of you guys like rhubarb?
I never tried it. I had it.
Any of you had rhubarb? Okay, interesting.
Have you had it?
Yes, it's very tart or sour. I hate it.
Sour. So let's get something like that.
Okay, I'm just checking on one other thing here. Chocolate. Okay. So a lot of leaves do contain various chemicals. Some are toxic. So here, rhubarb. Remember, the toxic part, that is also a way plants protect themselves. Okay, remember, some taste really bad, some are toxic outright. But
Why did three dots if there's only 2 points?
that's because there's another slide.
Oh.
Okay. Some are psychotropic. Okay, so for example, marijuana. Now, the textbook was written before the legalization, so there might be some information that are missing. However, for grade 11 level, that's probably good enough. Okay. Who's done? Put up your hand. Okay. Quickly. All right. Who's done? Done. Okay. 10 more seconds. Now, what is another leaf which have a certain chemical that we have already talked about that people do chew in some cases? Yes, tobacco. Thank you. Tobacco was, one of the first time people used were chewing tobacco. Okay. Um, it is also psychotropic. It does have a certain effect, or psychostimulatory. Yeah. Um, Now, this other one, the coca plants. Now, the coca plants is also psychotropic. So it actually has been used to suppress hunger, pain, and fatigue by chewing the leaves. Okay, the concentration of the active ingredient is a lot lower on the leaves than it is in the purified form. A lot less. Okay. Um, Once it's isolated or purified, that becomes cocaine, and the concentration is a lot more times concentrated. Okay. Yes.
So does that mean that the coca plant leaves are addictive themselves too, or it's just like
the concentration?
The concentration makes a difference. The concentration makes a difference, as well as when you say the difficulty when you're saying addiction, you talk about a number of things. You talk about something called dependency, which is like your physical dependency on the substance, and that also relies on like how easy and how fast it gets into your system, right? So in this case, I'm not sure in terms of chewing tobacco leaf whether it's like you have enough to get into your system where you can get hooked onto it, but it was used sufficiently high enough where like the the locals, the indigenous people have been using it for centuries to ward off these problems. This is also the very tricky part because coca plants give you cocaine. The the cacao, CACAO, the seeds give you chocolate. So both have C and both have C, two C's. Yeah, but one gives you cocaine, the other one gives you chocolate. Both are somewhat addictive. What? Yeah. Are you guys done?
No.
No? Okay. Yeah, cocaine is also used as anesthesia. So some, I don't know if they still use it for now, but I know that one of my classmates, when he was in high school, he had to have eye surgery and they gave him cocaine, but like in a certain, not to get him high, not to get him high, but to actually, so for the eyes, I don't remember, is it either to relieve the pain or somehow just make it not switch? I don't remember. But it was used as an anesthetic for that one, and we made fun of it. Well, I was in high school, so you do make fun of certain things. Are you guys done? Good, and good. Okay, just to make sure we have enough time. Again, this is recorded. If you're missing something, the next slide, the next two slides, you don't need to copy anything. But in some ways, somewhat fun fact and really fun fact. The not so fun fact is, I don't know why this is said here. How do you make crack cocaine? Basically, you dissolve it in water, you mix it with baking soda, and then you dry out the substance. That will.
Is that price up to date?
No, I would say this is quite low. Considering this PowerPoint was made at least a couple of years ago, with if milk gone up by so much, I would assume cocaine also gone up by a lot more too. But in terms of mechanism wise, because cocaine is, it doesn't go. There's a layer of membrane that protects your brain from the rest of your circulatory system, called the blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier. So cocaine on its own doesn't go through that barrier as well. The combining with baking soda is a weak base. It will change the structure of the cocaine, and then that structure will allow the molecule to go through the blood-brain barrier a lot easier and faster. Hence, it would hits you faster. Okay. Fun fact: you also don't need to copy this now. Yes, Coca-Cola back then have cocaine in it.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I didn't complete my statement. Are you sure it doesn't have any left now?
It doesn't have any left now? I assume not. I assume not.
Because I swear,
Yeah.
I read an article relating about how they extract it and they still use it in Coca-Cola.
Now, concerning the fact is this: if Coca-Cola still have cocaine, I'm pretty sure it will cost a lot more money. I don't know about all be dead, but it will probably cost more. And technically, you can concentrate the cocaine from Coca-Cola, but you can't. Okay? You guys good?
Yeah.
Okay. That's why it's so hard to switch.
Yeah. I mean,
Um. Anyways, what?
according to Wikipedia, after 1904, instead of using fresh leaves, they started using spent leaves, leftovers of the cocaine extraction process,
Yep.
with trace levels of cocaine.
All right. So, fun facts. You don't need to know that for the exam. All right. So, couple of things. Look up here. Look up here. Excuse me. So, if you look at the unit planner in terms of what I wrote, here are the couple of things. Read through the now. This is the handout by the other teacher about 12.5 transport in vascular plant, water and minerals. Did we learn this before? What is the process of transportation of water and minerals in vascular plants? Transpiration. We learned this back in March. But however, take a look through this. I'm going to scan this and put a copy of the electronic copy on here. Now, for those of you who want a hard copy, I will photocopy this during lunchtime, and I will leave some hard copies of this in a folder in front of room 112. Okay? So if you want to get a hard copy of this today, that's where you can find it. Tomorrow, if you didn't pick it up, tomorrow I'm just going to get whatever leftover there is, I'll bring it to class, and then if you didn't pick it up, then you pick it up. Okay? So read through this handout. Look back at your notes. Okay? You can access the notes. We have the same notes that talks about the same thing. We talked about that back in March. Remember all this? Talking about how water and minerals go from the roots hair of the plant go all the way up to the top of the trees. Okay, the process of transpiration. So make sure you remember and read those. We didn't look through this at the time because we didn't spend time on it. But now we learned about stoma or stomata. Then it is this. Yeah, stoma and stomata is the same thing, by the way. So now you understand. So make sure you review through those and review for the exam. Okay, review for the exam. Again, if something, when you're doing review at home, if you don't understand certain things, you want clarification, ask me the next day right away. Don't wait till the review lessons. You might forgot or might not have enough time to get to you. You don't have that much time. You want to use your time efficiently. Okay? Good?
Okay.
All right. I'm going to stop sharing.